most people who examine religion can see that it sort of falls into three categories. One type of religion, be it from the Judaic, Christian, or Islamic traditions, or even Hindu and Buddhism, is fundamentalism. And that's a belief that there's only one correct way and that all other religions are basically imposters. The second view, which sprang up as an understandable reaction to that part of fundamentalism, we can think of as postmodern pluralism. And that is sort of the other end of the spectrum, which kind of assigns an equal value to all beliefs and sort of throws its hands up in the air and says it's a sort of a spiritual version of if it feels good, do it. And it suffers from a kind of lack of coherence, internal coherence and integrity, and doesn't offer, because it is so wide open to every idea, it doesn't offer a lot of guidance for how to live our lives. And then, of course, the third category is simply the rejection of religion altogether. Think of it as materialism or atheism, agnosticism, and so forth. All of these sort of fall into that third category, which sees the problem with fundamentalism, sees a different set of problems with this postmodern pluralism, and then just says, let's call the whole thing off. And up until about the middle of the 19th century, it really seemed like there could be no other category but these three, until the appearance of a prophet in Iran who is known to history as Baha'u'llah, which is Arabic for the glory of God. Baha'u'llah articulated a new vision of theology, which is known to us as progressive revelation. And very briefly, the idea of progressive revelation is embedded really in a lot of the other religions. For instance, in Judaism, you have a belief in the prophethood of Abraham and then of Moses, who established the law and really inaugurated the Jewish religion, and then a number of prophets after him. So there's a belief there that God reveals his word to a people over time. Christianity, of course, recognizes the authority of all of those prophets that they consider to be in the Old Testament, then of course adds John the Baptist, foremost Jesus Christ, then assigns authority to Peter, Paul, and the other apostles going forward. Islam, to the surprise of many who haven't really looked into it, recognizes those Jewish prophets as well, and Jesus Christ, and then of course adds the prophethood of Muhammad. So inherent in all of these belief systems is this idea of progressive revelation. What they all have in common is that they believe that theirs was the final one, theirs was the last one. Or they're waiting for another revelation and haven't recognized it yet because it hasn't met their own expectations. It hasn't met their maybe political or geopolitical expectations in the case of Judaism, hasn't met their sort of literalist idea of prophecy, of Jesus riding in on an actual cloud, and all of these, Armageddon, all of this happening in the matter of a couple of days, and so forth. So the coming of this future figure never meets the expectations of the people at hand. The unique part of progressive revelation, as Baha'u'llah articulated it, is that he assigns all of the founders of the major religions a similar station, the same exalted and lofty station that he himself occupied. So there isn't this, there's a little bit of truth here and not so much truth in this other religion and so forth. He takes all of the founders who we think of as manifestations of God or perfect reflections of God's will and equalizes their station. And he also explains that this is actually an organic process, that God reveals his will to humanity over time in an age-appropriate way. It's like a principal at a school who assigns teachers. One teacher is going to teach first grade, another teacher is going to teach fourth grade. They might teach different things, but that doesn't mean that one is right and the other is wrong. It's simply they're teaching a curriculum that matches up to the wherewithal of the students to understand that curriculum. So it's a process that's gone all the way back into prehistory, before a time where we could even know the names of who these teachers were. And it will continue to happen into the future. And this just makes sense because if we are like children to God, if God views us in that sort of way, wouldn't God want his children to progress? Wouldn't he want them to continue to grow and to continue to teach them as their capacity to learn increase? Or would he just say, oh, okay, you've gone to first grade, that's it, you're done. You're just going to live by those rules for the rest of your life. Or, okay, now you've graduated high school, you're done learning there. There's no need to ever learn anything else. Of course not. That's not a logical outcome of what God would feel toward humanity. If God is a loving God, and we believe that he is, then it makes perfect sense that he would want to continue to teach humanity as long as humanity is able to exist. We believe this is what is happening. Baha'u'llah is the latest teacher, we believe, but he's not the last. He did say not to look for another one for 1,000 years' time because his teachings need time to take hold and to actually make progress. We can't be lurching from one person who claims to be a messenger from God, lurching from one to the next, year after year, in a situation of utter confusion. So, but he did affirm that this is an organic process that is infinite insofar as humanity is concerned. So this is the idea of progressive revelation. It's not fundamentalism. It's not if it feels good, do it, and all systems are of equal value and all the same. And of course it's not materialism because it affirms very strongly the existence of God and of God's historic messengers. So I hope this has helped you understand the central idea that Baha'u'llah brought to theology, one of the central ideas of the Baha'i faith that leads to and supports our quest for unity of humanity, progressive revelation.